The loyal dog and the battalion, a far and lonely planet. The ground shook with explosions. Dust and smoke filled the air. Soldiers in heavy armor ran forward, shouting orders, firing their weapons at strange alien creatures. The battle was fierce. The sky was dark, full of strange green clouds and lightning. It was a war between humans and aliens for control of the planet. In the middle of all this chaos was a man named Captain Raiden and his loyal cyber dog, Bolt. Bolt was not just a normal dog. He was part machine, with steel legs, glowing eyes, and sensors in his head. But in his heart, he was still a dog, loyal, brave, and full of love for his master. "Stay close, Bolt." Raiden shouted over the noise of the battle. Bolt barked once, a sharp metallic sound, and ran ahead, scanning for danger. His sensors beeped as he detected an enemy hiding behind a rock. Before the alien could fire, Bolt leapt at him, knocking him to the ground. "Good boy," Raiden called, firing his own weapon at another enemy. Together, the man and his dog moved through the battlefield, fighting side by side. Every time Raiden was in danger, Bolt was there, biting, jumping, or blocking the attack. They trusted each other completely. But the enemy was strong. They were fast, with sharp claws and thick skin. One of them charged at Raiden from behind. Bolt saw it just in time and threw himself in the way. The creature's claws cut deep into Bolt's metal side, and sparks flew. Bolt yelped, but kept fighting. He bit the creature's arm and didn't let go until it fell. Raiden dropped to his knees beside Bolt. "You okay, boy?" he asked, checking the damage. Bolt wagged his tail weakly, his eyes still glowing. He barked twice, as if saying, "I'm fine." Before Raiden could stand up, a huge explosion shook the ground under them. The ground cracked and opened up. Both man and dog fell into a dark, deep cave below. Dust filled the air as they hit the ground. Raiden groaned and sat up slowly, holding his arm. It was bleeding. Bolt landed beside him, his legs sparking but still moving. Raiden looked up. The hole above them was too high to climb. The battle sounds above were getting farther away. They were trapped in the cave. The cave was cold and silent. Strange glowing crystals on the walls gave off a faint blue light. Raiden took a small flashlight from his belt and looked around. "We need to find another way out," he said to Bolt. Bolt single quotes S sensors beeped softly. He turned his head to the side, his ears twitching. He could hear something. Raiden frowned. "What is it, boy?" Bolt walked slowly deeper into the cave. His glowing eyes scanned the shadows. There was a faint sound, like someone breathing, but heavy and full of pain. Rayde, and followed Bolt, his weapon ready. "Stay alert," he whispered. Then, in the dim light, they saw him. An alien soldier lay on the ground, leaning against the wall. His armor was broken, and dark green blood covered his chest. His eyes were open, but full of fear and pain. His weapon was broken beside him. Rayde, En froze. This was the enemy. Bolt stopped too. He looked at the alien, then at his master, and then back at the alien. The alien looked at them, too weak to move, but his eyes seemed to plead for help. Rayde, and raised his weapon and pointed it at the alien. His finger rested on the trigger. The alien coughed and spoke in a weak, strange voice. "Please, don't." Bolt looked at Raiden, then slowly stepped closer to the alien. "Bolt." "Stop," Raiden hissed. But Bolt didn't listen. The dog sniffed at the alien, and then began pulling at his armor carefully, as if trying to help him. The alien winced, but did not attack. Rayde, and lowered his weapon a little. "What are you doing, boy?" Bolt barked once softly, then kept working. Raiden sighed. "You're too kind, even for a dog," he muttered. Then the alien spoke again, his voice even weaker now. You don't understand. They are coming. Raiden blinked. Who is coming? The alien's eyes grew wide with fear. He whispered something Raiden couldn't hear clearly, then pointed into the dark tunnels of the cave. At that moment, a low, deep growl echoed through the cave. The ground trembled slightly. Bolt's sensors beeped loudly, warning of movement ahead. Raiden tightened his grip on his weapon and stared into the darkness. What now? He whispered. The alien closed his eyes and said one last word before fainting. Monsters? The sound of claws scraping against stone grew louder. Glowing eyes appeared in the dark ahead. Ryden, and Bolt exchanged a quick glance. The battle above was over for now. But here below, a new and more dangerous fight was about to begin. The enemy in the Kavitha cave was quiet, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of something waiting. Something hiding. Captain Raiden held his breath and watched the glowing eyes ahead. His hand gripped the weapon tight. Bolt stood beside him, growling low, his metal claws digging into the stone. The faint light from the crystals on the walls flickered, as though even they were afraid. On the ground, the injured alien was barely awake. His chest rose and fell in uneven breaths. His head lolled to the side, but his eyes, sharp and frightened, stayed fixed on the darkness ahead. Raiden whispered, "What is that? What's coming?" The alien opened his mouth, but no words came. Instead, a faint clicking sound echoed from the tunnels, like claws tapping on stone, fast and getting closer. Bolt barked once, warning. His sensors glowed brighter, flashing red. Rayde, and glanced at the alien, then back at the tunnels. He knew they couldn't stay here. Bolt, help me get him up. We can't just leave him here. Bolt moved quickly to the alien's side and began nudging him up with his strong shoulders. The alien groaned in pain, but managed to stand. Barely. His legs shook under him. The sound of claws grew louder now, and another sound joined it, a strange deep roar that rattled the stones around them. Rayd, and single quotes as eyes narrowed. Whatever that is, I don't want to meet it here in the open. The alien's head jerked up suddenly. He pointed down another tunnel, a narrower one, leading deeper into the earth. There, he gasped. Hide. Raiden didn't argue. He put one of the alien's arms over his shoulder and started moving toward the tunnel. Bolt ran ahead, checking for danger. As they moved, the air in the cave seemed to grow colder. The walls became slick with moisture. Faint shapes carved into the stone, symbols, maybe warnings, began to appear. Rayde, Ken kept his voice low. Do you know what's chasing us? The alien wheezed. Not mine. Worse. Much worse. Behind them, the growling and clicking grew even closer. They could almost feel the vibrations through their feet now. Bolt barked urgently and pointed his nose toward a small opening in the side of the tunnel, barely large enough for them to squeeze through. Rayd, Ian nodded. Good boy. They slipped through just as a shadow moved at the end of the larger tunnel. Something big and fast. Something with long, sharp limbs and glowing red eyes. It stopped, sniffed the air, and let out a terrible scream that made Raiden's blood run cold. They waited silently, pressed against the cold wall of the hiding place. The creature stood outside for a long moment, its claws scraping the stone. Then slowly it moved on, vanishing into the darkness. Rayden finally let out a breath. The alien slumped to the ground, weak. His green blood dripped onto the stones. Rayden looked at him. You saved us back there. Why? We're enemies. The alien's eyes met his. We were enemies. Until they woke up. Raiden frowned. What do you mean? The alien coughed, then pointed at the strange carvings on the wall. This place, it's their nest. Humans, my kind, we were both. Trespassers. Raiden looked closer at the carvings. They showed creatures with many legs and large jaws. Armies of them devouring both humans and aliens alike. He muttered, So, we've both been fighting the wrong enemy. The alien nodded weakly. If we don't stop them, everyone dies. Bolt whined softly and nudged Raiden's hand. Raiden sighed and stood up. Then we stop them. Together. But first, we need to get out of here alive. The alien's hand trembled as he reached into his broken armor and pulled out a strange metal disc. It glowed faintly blue. What's this? Raiden asked. The alien's voice was almost a whisper. A key to their prison. But it needs two. Raiden narrowed his eyes. Two? Two what? Two beings. One human, one of mine, the alien explained. The prison only opens if we work together. Before Raiden could reply, Bolt's sensors started flashing red again. This time, the clicking sound came from both sides of the tunnel. Rayd, Dean cursed under his breath. They're surrounding us. Bolt moved to the front, growling louder now. His tail was stiff, and his steel legs were ready to spring. Rayden tightened his grip on his weapon and helped the alien back to his feet. Can you still walk? The alien nodded slowly. Long enough. They started moving deeper into the tunnel, the strange disc glowing brighter in the alien's hand. Behind them, faint shadows danced on the walls as more creatures gathered. Then, from ahead, another. Noise, a strange whisper, almost like a voice calling Raiden's name. He froze. Did you hear that? He whispered. Bolt stopped too, his head tilting. The alien's eyes widened in fear. Don't listen, the alien said sharply. It's them. Raiden's breath grew heavy. The whispering got louder, almost inside his mind now. It spoke. Of things he didn't understand. Promises, threats, and memories that weren't his. He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. What are they? The alien's voice was grim. The oldest predators. They hunt not just flesh, but minds. Suddenly, a sharp cry echoed from behind. One of the creatures had found their scent again. Raiden gritted his teeth. Run, no more hiding. Show me where this prison is. The alien gripped the disc tighter. Follow me, and don't look back. Bolt barked once, as if agreeing. Together, the three of them ran deeper into the heart of the cave, the whispers, and screams of the creatures chasing them like a storm. Ahead, the faint glow of the prison door began to appear. Tall, ancient, and covered in strange runes, but the path was narrowing. And behind them, the creatures were closing in. Raiden knew one thing. This was no longer about winning a war. This was about surviving the night. And whatever waited at that door. He hoped it was better than what was chasing them. The real threat, ancient door stood before them. Massive, cold, and alive with a faint blue glow. Strange symbols shifted, slowly across its surface, as though they were breathing. Captain Raiden stared at it, his chest heaving from the long run. The whispers were louder now, echoing from the stone, curling around his mind like smoke. Is this it? He asked, barely trusting his voice. The alien leaned heavily against the wall, clutching the glowing disc. His green skin was pale, and his breathing was shallow. He nodded. The prison, the alien croaked. Where? They were locked away, long ago. Behind them, the tunnel roared with noise. Claws on stone, guttural growls, and an occasional scream. Some of the creatures were fighting each other now, but many were still hunting them. Bolt stood between Raiden and the darkness, growling low, his metal frame dented and scratched, but unyielding. His eyes scanned the shadows, tracking every movement. Raiden looked at the alien. "You said this thing," he pointed at the door, "can stop them?" The alien shook his head weakly. "Not stop, only trap again, but needs both of us. No one can do it alone." The whispers suddenly became sharper. One of them, a voice that sounded almost human, spoke inside Raiden's head. "We are not your enemy. We can make you strong, stronger than him, stronger than anyone. Rayd. Ian flinched and raised his hand to his head. "Shut up," he growled. The alien's eyes widened. "Don't listen," he said, his voice urgent. "They lie. They feed on trust, break you apart, turn you against everyone." Bolt barked at Raiden, breaking his focus. The whispers faded slightly. Rayden took a deep breath and nodded. "I'm fine. Let's finish this." The alien handed him the disc. The metal was warm, and as Raiden touched it, the symbols on the door began to move faster. The alien pressed his palm to one side of the door. "Your hand," he said, "on the other side. Together." Raiden placed his hand on the cold stone where the alien pointed. The door pulsed with light, and the ground beneath them began to tremble. But before the door could fully respond, a sharp scream cut through the air. Bolt turned and growled as a shadow leapt at them from the tunnel. One of the creatures, larger than the others, its claws glinting, its mouth full of jagged teeth. Raiden instinctively fired his weapon. The blast hit the creature in the chest, but it kept coming. Bolt lunged at it, his steel jaws clamping down on its neck. The two of them crashed to the ground, rolling in a violent struggle. Rayden tried to help, but the alien shouted, "No! The door! Finish it now." Raiden hesitated. Bolt was fighting for his life, but the creatures kept coming. More of them poured into the tunnel, filling the space with darkness and glowing eyes. "Bolt!" Raiden shouted. The dog looked back at him for a split second, his eyes bright with determination, then turned back to bite into the creature's throat. Raiden pressed his hand harder against the door. The light grew brighter, almost blinding. Alien began to chant something in his own language, his voice shaking. The door groaned, and the symbols started spinning faster, almost lifting off the surface. The creatures in the tunnel stopped suddenly. They seemed confused, their heads snapping toward the door. Then they screamed, not in anger this time, but in fear. The largest creature, the one fighting Bolt, threw the dog aside and charged straight at Raiden. But Bolt wasn't finished. Despite his broken leg and sparking wires, he launched himself at the creature again, dragging it down just before it reached Rayden. The alien gasped. "Almost. There. Don't stop." The whispers returned, louder and more violent this time. They clawed at Raiden's thoughts. Why help him? Why save them? Take our power. Rule this world. Betray them. Betray them now. Raiden gritted his teeth and shut his eyes. "I won't listen," he shouted. His voice echoed through the chamber. And for a moment, the whispers went silent. The door finally roared to life, splitting down the middle as light poured out of it. The creatures shrieked and stumbled back. A massive wind howled through the cave, pulling at everything, rocks, dust, the creatures themselves. Raiden stumbled backward, but kept his hand pressed to the door. The alien fell to his knees, still, chanting, his other hand glowing. One by one, the creatures were dragged toward the door, their claws scraping helplessly at the floor. They howled and twisted, their shadows stretching as they were pulled inside. The biggest one, the leader, fought the hardest. It clung to the stones, its teeth bared, its eyes locked on Rayd, Ian. Then Bolt, bloodied and broken, charged at it one final time. His jaws clamped onto the creature's neck and pushed it closer to the door. With a last roar, the creature was sucked into the light, and the door slammed shut with a deafening boom. Silence fell. Raiden collapsed to the ground, breathing hard. His hands shook as he pulled them away from the door. The alien lay nearby, motionless but alive. Bolt limped back to Raiden, his body sparking, his head low. But his tail wagged, just a little. Raiden smiled faintly. You did good, boy. You saved. You us all. The alien opened his eyes and whispered weakly. It's done. For now. Raiden looked at the door. The blue light was gone, but faint cracks had appeared in the surface, and something deep inside still whispered, faint but real. He frowned. Is it really over? He asked. The alien closed his eyes and said, Nothing ever really over. And in the quiet of the cave, as they caught their breath, one last sound came from the other side of the door. A faint, distant laugh. Rayd. Ian stared at the door, his jaw tight. Whatever was inside. It wasn't finished yet, and neither was he. The chase against the cave was silent, but it was not the silence of safety. It was the silence of something waiting to happen. Captain Raiden sat against the cold stone wall, catching his breath. His hand still rested on Bolt's head. The dog's metal frame was dented, his legs barely holding him up, but his eyes glowed faintly. The alien lay nearby, his green skin pale and slick with sweat. His chest rose and fell unevenly, but he managed to speak. We stopped them, he whispered. Raydn looked at the sealed door. Its surface was cracked now, faint lines of blue light leaking through. And behind those cracks, something shifted, as if testing the door from the other side. For now, Raiden muttered, but you were right. Nothing stays locked forever. The alien nodded weakly. Bolt's sensors beeped softly, pulling Raiden's attention to the tunnel behind them. At first, it was quiet. Then, a faint sound, like a breath of wind, but colder, sharper. Raydn stood quickly, weapon ready. What is it? He asked. The alien forced himself to sit up. His eyes widened. They called others, he said, his voice trembling. Not like before, worse. Raiden frowned. What do you mean, worse? The alien turned his eyes toward the tunnel, his hands tightening into fists. Those were only the hunters. Now, the hive wakes. Before Raiden could respond, the cave floor shook under their feet. Dust rained down from the ceiling. A deep, rumbling roar came from far below, as if the entire planet itself was angry. Bolt barked and moved toward the sound. Stay with me, Raiden told him, but Bolt was already scanning the darkness ahead. Then the whispers returned, but this time louder. Not just one voice now, but many. They crawled into Raiden's mind, speaking in strange, broken words. You can't run. You can't hide. You broke the seal. Now we come. Raiden pressed his hands to his head. Get out of my head. The alien staggered to his feet, holding on to the wall. We have to leave this place, he said. Now, or it will consume us too. Raiden helped him up and slung the alien's arm over his shoulder. Together, they moved down the narrow tunnel that led away from the sealed door. Bolt led the way, limping but determined. The deeper they went, the stranger the cave became. The walls shimmered faintly, covered in alien symbols that glowed and faded like breathing skin. Strange shadows moved just out of sight, too fast to see clearly. Raiden kept his weapon ready, but he knew bullets would not save them now. Then they heard it, a scream from behind them. But not just a scream. Hundreds of screams, blending. into one horrible sound. Bolt barked in warning. The ground began to split, cracks opening behind them as dark shapes poured out of the earth. "Run!" Raiden shouted. They ran. The tunnel twisted and turned, sometimes narrowing so much they had to squeeze through, other times opening into vast chambers filled with sharp crystal formations that glowed red and blue behind them. The creatures followed. Faster, louder, they filled the tunnels like a black river of claws and teeth. Raiden's lungs burned as he ran. The alien stumbled, but kept moving, his eyes fixed forward. "Where does this tunnel lead?" Raiden yelled. "To the surface." The alien replied between gasps. "If we make it before they catch us." But even as he said it, a loud cracking sound came from above them. Raiden looked up just in time to see the ceiling of the tunnel shatter. A massive creature, bigger than anything they'd seen before, dropped down in front of them, blocking. The way it was taller than a tank, with 6 long, sharp legs and a mouth full of rows of teeth. Its eyes glowed a deep red as it let out a roar that shook the cave walls. Raiden froze. Bolt growled and stepped in front of him. The alien whispered, "The Hive Queen?" The Queen lunged RAYDE and fired his weapon, but the bullets bounced off its thick shell. The Queen slashed at him with one long claw, barely missing. Bolt leapt at her face, biting and clawing, sparks flying as he tore into her eye. The Queen screeched and slammed Bolt into the ground, but he got up again, limping, refusing to stop. "We can't kill it like this." Raiden shouted. The alien looked at the Queen, and then at the glowing crystals on the walls. His eyes widened. "The crystals!" he cried. "They hold the energy that traps them. Break them. Bring down the cave." Raiden hesitated. "If they brought the cave down, they might not survive either." But behind them, the sound of the swarm grew louder, closer. They had no choice. Rayden nodded. "Bolt with me." Together, Raiden and Bolt began firing at the largest crystals. One by one, they shattered, sending out blasts of blue light. The Queen screamed in rage as the ground beneath her cracked. She lunged at Raiden, but Bolt threw himself in the way again, locking his jaws onto her throat. More crystals exploded, and the ceiling above the Queen collapsed, burying her under tons of stone and glowing shards. The swarm stopped suddenly, their screams fading as the Queen's body disappeared under the rubble. Silence returned. Dust filled the air. The alien leaned against the wall, coughing. Rayde, and picked up Bolt in his arms. The dog was still alive, but badly damaged. The alien looked at Raiden, his eyes full of something that might have been respect. "You, human, and your dog," he said weakly. "You are stronger than I thought." Raiden managed a tired smile. "We're not done yet," he said, looking up toward the faint light above them, the way out. But even as they began to climb toward the surface, a low, distant rumble echoed through the cave, and somewhere far behind them, something moved, something bigger. The Queen, or something worse. Rayden single quotes S jaw tightened. "Let's go," he muttered, "before whatever that is catches up." With Bolt in his arms and the alien at his side, they climbed, leaving behind the whispers of the cave, but knowing the hunt was far from over. A secret Revioleth climb to the surface felt endless. Captain. Raiden's arms burned as he pulled himself and Bolt upward through the narrow shaft. The faint light from above grew brighter with each step, but the air stayed heavy and cold. The alien followed close behind, his breath ragged. Every so often, his eyes darted back into the dark below, as though he expected something to reach up and drag them back down. Finally, they reached the surface. Rayden pushed aside a slab of stone and climbed out into the open. For a moment, he just stood there, breathing the thin, cold air, feeling the strange wind against his face. The planet's surface was quiet. The battlefield they had left behind earlier was now empty. No gunfire, no soldiers, just smoke rising. From distant craters and pieces of broken ships, scattered like bones. Rayd, En set, bolt gently on the ground. The dog's body sparked, but his glowing eyes blinked slowly, still alive. Rest, boy, Raiden whispered, patting his head. The alien crawled out next, collapsing on the ground. His green skin looked even paler in the sunlight. For a while, they all just lay there, listening to the strange silence. But then, Raiden noticed something odd. The ground beneath them pulsed. He frowned and placed his hand on the soil. It was faint, like a heartbeat, slow and steady. Do you feel that? He asked. The alien opened his eyes and nodded. We're standing on it, the alien said quietly. Rayden froze. On what? The alien turned his gaze toward the horizon, where a line of jagged mountains cut across the sky. The hive, he said. It's not just in the planet, it is the planet. Raiden stared at him. What are you talking about? The alien took a deep, shaky breath. Long before humans came here, before even my kind, this planet was alive. It is the hive. Everything you've seen, the creatures, the queen, even the whispers, they're all parts of it. We were never fighting for this land. We were fighting against it, waking up. Raiden's chest tightened. You knew this? He asked. The alien didn't look at him. We thought we could control it. My people came here to study it, to harvest its energy. But when we dug too deep, he trailed off, his eyes dark with memory. Rayden stood slowly, scanning the horizon. The faint pulse in the ground felt stronger now, as if it had noticed them. So all this time, Raiden said, his voice low, humans in your kind were just scratching at its skin. And now it's awake. The alien finally looked at him. Not fully, he said. But it's watching us now, deciding whether to rise. Bolt let out a soft growl, his sensors flashing dimly. He was staring at something in the distance. Rayde followed his gaze. Far away, one of the mountains moved, not fast, just a slow shift, but enough to send rocks tumbling down its slopes. Then another peak moved, splitting slightly to reveal something beneath. Rayde squinted. Are those eyes? Massive glowing eyes opened along the ridge of the mountains. And then came the sound, deep, low, and so powerful it made the ground tremble. A single wordless roar that shook the air and rattled Raiden's bones. He fell to one knee, pressing his hands to his ears. What is it saying? He shouted. The alien's eyes were wide with terror now. It's calling, he said, to the others. The hive isn't alone. Raiden's stomach dropped. Others? You mean? The alien nodded slowly. More planets, more hives. When one wakes, they all wake. This is only the beginning. Bolt barked suddenly, a sharp warning. Raiden turned to see dark shapes crawling up from cracks in the ground nearby. Dozens of them, smaller than the queen, but faster, sharper, and more coordinated. They moved with purpose now, no longer wild. Hunters but soldiers. Raiden raised his weapon and fired into the closest one, but it dodged easily, almost as if it knew where he was aiming before he pulled the trigger. They're learning, Raiden muttered, backing up. The alien staggered to his feet. You can't fight them here, he said. Not anymore. The only chance we have is to find the core, the heart of the hive, and destroy it before it fully wakes. Raiden's jaw tightened. Where is it? The alien pointed toward the largest mountain, the one with the biggest. Glowing eyes, now fully open and staring straight at them. There, he said, "but it won't let us reach it easily." Bolt barked again, his body shaking as he tried to stand. Raiden looked down at him. "You sure, boy?" he asked softly. Bolt gave one weak wag of his tail and took a step forward. Growling. "Rayd," Ian smiled faintly. "All right then," he said, turning back to the alien. "We finish this together." But before they could move, the ground ahead cracked open. Something enormous began to rise from the earth, a creature unlike anything they had seen before. It was not just a beast, but a piece of the planet itself, its skin made of rock and crystal, its eyes like burning stars. The alien's voice dropped to a whisper. "The Sentinel," he said, "guardian of the heart. It cannot be killed." Raiden stared at the towering figure, his hands tightening around his weapon. "Everything dies," he muttered. But as the Sentinel took its first thunderous step toward them, the whispers returned, louder than ever. This time they didn't beg or bargain. They commanded, "Come to us. Join us. You cannot fight what you already are." Rayd, eyes narrowed. "Watch me," he whispered back. He checked his weapon, glanced at Bolt and the alien, and then started walking toward the glowing mountain, toward the core of the hive, and whatever waited there. The Sentinel roared. The ground split, and the sky above began to crack with lightning. And deep inside the mountain, something vast and ancient began to wake. The final 5 mountain loomed ahead, glowing from deep cracks that ran down its sides like molten veins. Every few seconds the ground trembled, as if something massive was breathing beneath the earth. Captain Raiden stood still for a moment, staring up at the impossible sight. The Sentinel towered in front of him, a creature of living rock and light, taller than any building, its jagged crystal arms glowing blue and red as it moved. Its head, crowned with sharp crystal spines, slowly turned to face him. Its voice wasn't a roar this time. It was a deep hum, a vibration in the air and inside his own chest. "You do not belong here. You will be broken." Rayde, and S hand tightened around his weapon. "Not today," he muttered. Bolt growled beside him, his metal body sparking badly now, but his glowing eyes fixed on the Sentinel. The alien leaned on a shard of rock, his body shaking, but still standing. "You're sure the core is inside that mountain?" Raiden asked, without taking his eyes off the Sentinel. The alien nodded weakly. "At the very center, the heart of the hive. Destroy it, and it all ends." Raiden exhaled slowly. "Then that's where we're going." The Sentinel took another step toward them. Its massive foot crushed boulders as though they were dust. When it raised one of its crystal arms, the air around it began to shimmer with energy. Bolt's S sensors blared a warning. Raiden ducked just as the Sentinel swung its arm. A wave of blue energy tore through the ground, sending rocks and debris flying in all directions. Bolt leapt forward and bit into the Sentinel's ankle, his metal jaw sparking against the stone. The Sentinel roared, kicking Bolt away, but the distraction gave Raiden his opening. He sprinted toward a narrow path that led up the mountain, firing at the glowing cracks along the Sentinel's body as he ran. The alien followed him, gasping for breath. "You cannot run from us," the whispers hissed in Raiden's mind. "You are already part of us. Stop fighting." "Shut up," Raiden growled. "You picked the wrong human." The path was steep and crumbling, but he climbed anyway, pulling himself over sharp rocks, ducking under falling debris. Below them, the Sentinel began to climb after them, its massive arms smashing into the mountain, pulling itself upward faster than they could run. At one point, a piece of the cliff gave way beneath the alien's feet. He slipped, hanging by one hand over the abyss. Raiden grabbed him just in time, hauling him back up. "You're heavier than you look," Raiden muttered. The alien gave a faint smile, despite his pain. and you are more stubborn than you look. Together they reached a ledge that opened into a glowing cave. Inside, the walls pulsed with light, and the air was hot and alive. Like standing in the center of a heartbeat, the core.rayd in stop at the entrance. Staring in awe, it was enormous. A vast sphere of shifting energy, suspended above a pit, held in place by enormous black tendrils. Its surface shimmered with alien symbols that moved like living things. The whispers became deafening here, louder than ever. One more step. Give in. Become one of us. You cannot win. We are forever. Raiden gritted his teeth and stepped forward anyway. Bolt limped in after him, his eyes fixed on the sphere. What now? Raiden asked the alien. The alien held out the strange metal disc, now glowing brighter than before, and pressed it into Raiden's hand. This will break the heart, he said, but it will also break everything else. The mountain, the hive, maybe the whole planet. Raiden stared at him. And us? The alien looked away. Maybe us too. Raiden took a deep breath. Figures. The sentinel roared behind them, entering the cave, its massive form barely fitting through the opening. It raised its arm, preparing to strike. Raiden glanced at Bolt. Think you've got one more fight in you? Bolt barked weakly, but took a step forward, planting himself between Raiden and the sentinel. That's my boy, Raiden said softly. He turned to the alien. Get behind me. We finish this. The sentinel lunged at them, its crystal claws slicing through the air. Raiden dove to the side, rolling toward the edge of the pit. He grabbed the alien's arm and pulled him closer. The core's light grew brighter, almost blinding now. The whispers screamed in rage and fear. Do not touch. You are nothing. Raiden ignored them. He pressed the disc against the core. At first, nothing happened. Then a deep crack appeared in its surface. The sentinel let out a terrible cry and charged at him. But Bolt leapt onto its face, biting and clawing, sparks flying. The core cracked again, the symbols on its surface shattering and falling away like broken glass. Rayden pushed the disc deeper into the crack, shouting over the noise. This ends now. The core exploded in a burst of blinding light. Everything stopped. For a moment, there was silence. No whispers, no roars, no tremors. Then the mountain began to collapse. Huge chunks of rock fell from above. The sentinel froze in place, cracks spreading through its body before it shattered into dust. Raiden was thrown to the ground, the alien landing beside him. Bolt limped over, collapsing next to Raiden's hand. The core's light dimmed, and the pulsing stopped. The hive was dead, but the mountain was dying too. The cave began to fall apart around them. Raiden forced himself to stand, grabbing Bolt in his arms and pulling the alien to his feet. Move, he shouted. They ran. Through falling rocks, over cracking ledges, past walls that split and crumbled. At last, they burst out onto the surface, just as the mountain behind them collapsed completely, sending a wave of dust and debris into the air. Raiden fell to his knees, gasping. The alien lay beside him, staring at the broken mountain. Bolt blinked up at him weakly, his tail giving one small wag before going still. Rayd held him close, whispering, You saved us all. Good boy. The alien spoke softly, his voice full of awe. You destroyed it, he said. You did what no one else could. Raiden stared at the ruin in front of them. The glowing eyes of the mountain were gone. The whispers were gone. But as the dust began to settle, he saw something that made his stomach turn. Far on the horizon. Another mountain, faintly glowing, and another and another. The alien followed his gaze, his expression darkening. We stopped. This one, Raiden said quietly. But the war isn't over. He stood slowly, Bolt cradled in his arms, and looked at the alien. Then let's finish it, he said. The alien nodded, a faint, grim smile on his face. And together, they turned toward the next mountain, and whatever waited for them there. The twist and Goodbeath wind howled across the barren plains as Captain Raiden, the alien, and Bolt moved slowly toward the next glowing mountain. Behind them, the collapsed hive lay silent, its whispers finally gone. But the air still felt heavy. The faint glow of more hives dotted the horizon, like distant embers waiting to catch fire. RAYDE. In single quotes S. Arms ached from carrying Bolt, whose eyes blinked weakly now, his metal frame cracked and sparking. But the dog still wagged his tail whenever Raiden looked down at him. The alien walked beside him, leaning on a sharp piece of metal like a cane. His movements were slow, but his eyes burned with quiet determination. After hours of walking through the dust and silence, they stopped at the edge of a jagged canyon. On the other side, the next hive rose into the dark sky, its faint light pulsing like a heartbeat. But something was wrong. The ground beneath them trembled, faintly at first, then stronger. RAYDE and tensed. Not again, he muttered. Bolt single quotes S. Sensors flickered red, and the alien froze, his eyes wide. He whispered, "Too soon. It shouldn't wait yet." Before Raiden could respond, a deep, low growl rose from the canyon below them. Then came the whispers, not faint this time, but loud, clear, and terrifying. "You thought you won. You thought you were stronger. You are nothing. You belong to us." The ground split suddenly, throwing them to the ground. A massive claw shot up from the canyon, pulling a colossal shape into the air. It was not like the sentinel they had defeated before. This creature was bigger, its body made of jagged black rock and glowing veins of fire, its many eyes blazing like suns. Its presence made the air feel thick and heavy, and its voice shook the earth. "You broke the seal. You freed me, and now I will free the others." RAYDEN stared up at it, his jaw tight. He stood slowly, setting Bolt gently on the ground. "Guess you're the boss of all this," he said grimly. "Good. I like knowing who to punch." But the alien grabbed his arm suddenly. His face was pale, his hands shaking. "You don't understand," the alien said, his voice breaking. This is not just a queen or a guardian. This is the heart itself." Raiden's stomach dropped. "The heart? But we destroyed the core." The alien shook his head slowly. "No, you destroyed one core, but the heart moves. It was never in one place. It was using us." Raiden's eyes narrowed. "Using us? What do you mean?" The alien's voice grew even quieter. "The fight, all of it. It was a test. It let us think we won, so we'd wake it fully. And now, it's free." The creature's laugh echoed across the canyon, shaking the rocks loose. "Finally, awake. Finally, whole. And now, the galaxy will feed me." RAYDEN looked at the alien, and then at Bolt, who was barely holding himself up. His throat tightened. "So, what? We just give up? Let it take everything?" The alien hesitated, then reached into his damaged armor and pulled out the cracked disc. He held it up with shaking hands. "There's one way left," he said. "One of us must give everything to trap it again. But this time, forever." Raiden stared at the disc, then at the creature, then at Bolt. "What happens to the one who does it?" he asked quietly. The alien's eyes darkened. "Gone. Nothing left. No coming back." The whispers grew louder now, laughing in his mind. "Do it, little soldier. Sacrifice yourself for nothing. It won't matter. Rayde clenched his fists. Shut up. He took the disc from the alien and looked at Bolt. The dog met his eyes, tired but still loyal. Raiden knelt beside him. You've done enough, boy. More than enough. He stroked Bolt's head gently. You saved me more times than I can count. It's my turn now. Bolt whined softly and tried to stand, but Raiden shook his head. Stay, good boy. The alien grabbed his arm. Wait, he said suddenly. You shouldn't. It's my mistake, my responsibility. But Raiden gave him a small, tired smile. You helped me. You helped us. But this is a human problem now. And humans finish what we start. He stood, holding the disc in his hand. The creature in the canyon leaned closer, its many eyes blazing, its mouth opening wide in a roar. Raiden shouted back, You want me? Come and get me. The creature lunged Rayde and raised the disc and slammed it into the ground. A blinding light exploded outward, swallowing everything in white. The creature screamed, a sound so loud and strange it shook the stars themselves, and its massive body began to crack and collapse. The whispers turned into screams, then into silence. When the light faded, the creature was gone. The canyon was quiet. The mountain no longer glowed. The alien opened his eyes slowly, coughing. He looked around and saw Bolt lying on the ground beside him, staring into the distance. But Raiden was gone. There was nothing left but a faint shimmer in the air and the cracked disc lying in the dust. Bolt crawled over to it and lay his head on it, letting out a low, mournful sound. The alien bowed his head. He did it, he whispered. He won. But as the alien stood and looked at the horizon, he froze. Far away, faint but unmistakable, another mountain began to glow. Then another, and another. The alien's eyes narrowed. The war isn't over, he said quietly. But because of him, we still have a chance. He looked down at Bolt. Come, little warrior, he said, his voice firm now. We have work to do. Bolt lifted his head, his eyes glowing faintly once more. He stood slowly, his tail giving a single determined wag. Together, man and machine, both changed forever, turned toward the next horizon, ready to fight again. And in the quiet sky above them, the faintest sound of a human voice, Raiden's voice, whispered through the wind, Finish it.